Hey guys, how is everybody doing? Welcome back to the final video of my Nightmare on Elm Street review series. This is the final video and ranking that I'm going to be doing of the Nightmare on Elm Street series. For now, possibly we'll get another movie, but who the fuck knows when that movie will ever happen. But today I'm doing something a little bit interesting. Today I'm going to be ranking the 9 variants of all the Freddy Kruegers. Since there's only been 2 people who have ever played Freddy Krueger on the big screen, I'm going to be ranking the variants of them. The way I'm going to be doing this is by looks, how funny or scary they are, or if they're too comedic, or if they're really scary, and also just by performance wise by Robert England and Jackie Early Haley. That's the way I'm going to do it. It might get a little confusing through and through here, and some of my rankings will feel very similar to my movie rankings, but nonetheless, here's my ranking of the 9 variants of all Freddy Kruegers. And at number 9, to me, is easily the weakest of and the worst version of Freddy Krueger, and that is the Freddy's Dead Freddy Krueger. I basically hate that movie, and that is my least favorite Nightmare on Elm Street movies. It's in my top 5 worst horror movies ever made. And it is by far the worst version of Freddy Krueger we have ever gotten. This is basically a Looney Tunes movie. It is a Looney Tunes film, and the Freddy Krueger that we get is basically a Looney Tunes cartoon. But it looks like Freddy Krueger, and it does Freddy Krueger things. But it also makes jokes every 5 minutes and does a fucking gag every minute. I basically hate this movie. I really hope I won't have to talk about Freddy's Dead anymore in the future, but again, we'll see what the future holds. But this is by far the worst Freddy Krueger. This is by far the worst of the franchise, and the Freddy's Dead Freddy Krueger is my number 9. 8 is the Dream Child Freddy Krueger. To me, this is where this Freddy just became flat out comedic and instead of scary. Because to me, because of this Freddy, this is why we got the Freddy Krueger and Freddy's Dead. And this is where he just goes full comedic. He has his moments, especially during Dan's death and everything like that. The whole comic book death and everything. Basically, all the death scenes is where he really stands out. But this is where he's just flat out comedic. The It's not as bad as the Freddy's Dead version, but this is where he just goes just all out comedic, all out funny, and they don't even make him very scary. And he does not look like Freddy Krueger, by the way. He looks like absolute dog shit. He looks like that they just rushed his makeup just so they can get certain shots just to release this movie 1 year after Dream Master, which basically happened. But I hate this version of Freddy, but I don't hate the film itself, but I just don't care for the look of this Freddy and just how just flat out comedic he is. 7 is the Dream Master Freddy Krueger. To me, this is where he slowly just became the comedic Freddy, where because of Dream Master and how that movie kind of represented Freddy as also kind of funny but also being scary, but they basically just took Freddy and just made him full out comedic. I don't think he's as bad as the two below him, but this is where I just don't think he's scary. He has weird, gross one-liners that are kind of sexual and kind of really more hints at that maybe he was a child molester. But that's always been hinted in this franchise. We don't talk about that remake one yet. But to me, I do enjoy this Freddy. He has his moments. This is where he becomes like a cool guy, as the director of this movie said. He wants to make him quote like James Bond. How are you gonna make Freddy Krueger James Bond? That doesn't make any sense. But this is where Freddy becomes like a little more comedic. This is where they try to make Freddy just more comedic. But I don't hate that. But I want my Freddy Krueger to be scary, not just a flat out stand up comic. Number 6 is the remake Freddy Krueger. The remake Freddy Krueger, he has his moments. I do think that he's pretty scary in some scenes. What really buffs him up this high is because of Jackie Early Haley's performance. Like how my favorite scene with this Freddy Krueger is when he kills Jesse. He's like, "What do you want from me? Do you think you can turn back time?" And like messes with him. He's like, "Hey, do you think you can turn back time? Do you think you can bring the dead back to life?" He's like, "No, well, I didn't fucking think so." That whole scene is where Freddy's actually fucking scary to make you want to piss your pants. Like that scene alone just makes Jackie Early Haley the best replacement for Robert Englund. If you're never gonna get Robert Englund back, please, for the love of fuck, bring back Jackie Early Haley. I don't care if it's part of the remake. I don't care if it's a sequel to the remake. I don't care if it's a whole new movie and it's a requel, a reboot of this franchise. Just get Jackie Early Haley to play Freddy Krueger again. Like, Robert Englund's done as the character. Just get Jackie Early Haley again. That's why he's only this high. But I've said this numerous times already. I'm a guy that roots for the killers in horror movies, but it's hard for me to root for a child molester. And it's a weird argument to make that child molestation is worse than child murder. It's a weird conversation to make of which one's worse, but both are horrible things. But that's why I don't like this Freddy, because one, if he's not a killer anymore, why does he have the glove? Why do they focus way too much on him possibly being innocent? And three, why make him a child molester? That was always hinted at this franchise about Freddy Krueger. I can root for a murderer, I don't care. Like, we all love Jason, Michael, Freddy Krueger, Chucky, Leatherface. We all love those guys, and they're all murderers. But do you really want to root for a child molester? I don't. Here on out, I love all these versions of Freddy's. These are all where where they got that perfect blend of scary and funny, or just flat out scary. But coming in at number 5 is the Freddy versus Jason Freddy. Now, I would say all these Freddys are basically flawless, where they're perfect. They were performed perfectly, and they just did it right all around. I could say that, but I really love this version of Freddy. This is the second best Freddy Krueger to get that perfect blend of scary and funny Freddy. I really like that. They do a great job there. And there's nothing negative I can really say against this Freddy. And if this is the last time we'll ever see the original Freddy, I would be okay with that, because this was a great Freddy Krueger, and this is one of the best looking Freddy Kruegers, because almost every time I hear somebody talk about Freddy Krueger, they'll always picture this image. Every time you look up Freddy Krueger, this is one of the first images that will show up of Freddy. I love this version of Freddy. He's both scary and he's menacing, but at the same time, they make him a little bit funny here and there. That's what I love from Freddy, but at the same time, I love that really dark Freddy Krueger. I don't have anything negative to say towards this guy. The only reason he's just this low is because the other ones above it are just more darker and better than this one. Coming in at number 4 may surprise some of you, and that is the Freddy's Revenge Freddy Krueger. Now, I don't love this movie. I don't really care for it. It's not a very good movie. There's nothing really going on here and there. Check out my full review to get my full thoughts. And I don't love the movie, but I do love this version of Freddy. Some could argue, and I would be in that argument, that this is probably the darkest Freddy Krueger. This is possibly one of the scariest, if not the scariest, up there at the first movie. I love this version of Freddy. They continue to make him dark, and I think this is the darkest, where he has like that sick sense of humor, like pulling off like his skin and showing his brains, like, I've got the body, I've got the brain, and just like shows his brain and shit. Like that dark humor there is what I love from Freddy Krueger. This is one of the best versions of Freddy. I love the dark tone of him, but there's no, again, none of these Freddy. I have nothing wrong with any of these Freddys from here on out, but I love this version of Freddy. He's great and he's scary. He has that sick sense of humor, but I don't really like how they, instead of just making him have a glove, like the finger knives are just like attached to his skin. What? What? I don't know. I love this version of Freddy. He's dark and he has that sick sense of humor, and that's what makes a perfect Freddy. And I'm glad they kept that momentum going until part 4. And at number 3 is the new Nightmare Freddy. Now, technically, yes, this is not really a Freddy. This is an entity taking the form of Freddy Krueger. But if you watch this movie just as Freddy, if you look at him just Freddy, this is a great Freddy. I love that he's darker again. I love the look of this Freddy, where like his skin is like peeling off. I love how his glove is attached to his hand, where it's like part of his bones and muscles and tissues and all that. That is badass and one of the coolest looking Freddys out there. I love this Freddy. It was a welcome return by me as a Nightmare fan to the darker version of Freddy after the goofy and campy Freddy movie, Freddy from the from 4 to 6, where they were just all flat out comedic. This version of Freddy was welcomed by me after the comedic side of Freddy for the longest time. And then Wes Craven came in and is like, well, that's fucking stupid. Why don't you guys just keep making them scary and darker? Thank you, Wes Craven, by the way. I love this version of Freddy, but technically it's not Freddy, it's an evil entity, but when you look at him as just Freddy, it's a great version of him. And I love that little green hat for some reason. It reminds me of the leprechaun. And dude, he's also got like a bitchin' trench coat in this movie. How badass is that? Like, what horror movie icon, like a slasher icon like Freddy, Michael, Jason, have you ever seen them wear a trench coat? That is fucking badass. He looks like something from the fucking Matrix. In at number two, although this is my favorite of the franchise, but it's not my favorite version of Freddy Krueger. But number two is a Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors Freddy Krueger. Now, I'll get into more of my thoughts when I get to number one, but I love this version of Freddy. They got that perfect blend of him being scary, but yet he's also funny, where kind of like Freddy's Revenge, where he's got that sixth sense of humor, but he's spitting out one-liners that are actually funny, like, what's the matter, Joey? Feeling tongue-tied? Like, let's get high. And everything. Like, just shit like that. And like, whoa, the prime time, bitch! Is another one where all those one-liners are kind of scary, but at the same time, they're funny. This is that perfect blend of Freddy Krueger where they got that funny, but yet the scary side of Freddy. I love that version of Freddy. This is my favorite of the franchise, but it's not necessarily my favorite Freddy Krueger. My number one, my favorite version of Frederick Krueger is the original Freddy Krueger, the original classic Freddy, the one that Wes Craven wrote back in 1984, of course. This is where Freddy was just downright evil and was like hiding in the shadows and like never coming out and like never really speaking instead of like to Freddy and I'm like I'm gonna get you, like just like saying shit that's supposed to scare you, like I'm gonna get you. And like I love a scary ass Freddy, and if any of the versions of Freddy's were ever to give me a nightmare, it would be this one, no pun intended. I love this version of Freddy. He's scary, maniacal, has that sixth sense of humor where he has a few puns here and there, but at the same time he doesn't really speak. This is where Freddy was scary, where he would literally just scare the shit out of you, where he was like hiding in the shadows, whispering all of his lines, chasing people down and everything, taunting them, and like using, like, messing with Nancy, like with Tina's voice and everything, like just shit like that. That is what makes this Freddy scary. And I miss that version of Freddy. For the love of fucking God. If we ever get another Nightmare on Elm Street movie, which will probably never come, I want them to make a scary Freddy again. None of this bullshit where he's just a comedic Freddy Krueger. I wouldn't mind if they did that half and half thing, but they better get a perfect blend of it. But if they don't do that, please bring back the scary Freddy. I don't want a comedic Freddy. I want a Freddy Krueger like this. This is the best version of Frederick Krueger and probably always will be. There you have it, guys. That is my personal ranking of all 9 variants of Freddy Krueger. Thank you all so much for watching. It has been a fun ride going through this entire franchise. Thank you to everybody who watched those videos. A Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Warriors is actually one of my most popular videos now, along with the Dream Master. Thank you all so much for coming on this ride. Thank you all for 84 subscribers. That is mind-blowing in my mind. I could not believe that I hit 84 subscribers, and it's thanks to this franchise and to you guys. Thank you all so much for coming on this ride. And this might be the final Nightmare video that I'll ever make, really. I hope to God that we'll get another Nightmare movie. But until then, thank you all so much for watching. If you like this video, like it. If you loved it, subscribe and hit the bell notification so you will get notified for my latest videos. And please share this video. And as always, see you next time.